Let's take a minute and go back to a time when every movie didn't have an agenda. When the most important thing while making a film was entertainment and escapism. When fun wasn't a bad word, and most importantly, when Disney made good live-action movies. The Rocketeer is brought to us by director Joe Johnston and stars Billy, I'm Not Bruce's Brother Campbell, Alan Arkin, Timothy Dalton, and Jennifer Connelly. It is the 30th anniversary of this movie this month, and I can't tell you how old that makes me feel because I remember very vividly going to see this movie on opening night in theaters. I also remember loving this movie as a kid, and throughout the years I would watch it, and my fondness of it just grew more and more every time I watched it. However, I haven't really sat down to watch this movie in about 15 to 20 years, so going back to it now, I was wondering, is this movie going to be as good now as I thought it was then? Because let's be real, there are movies we watched when we were kids that we thought were like the greatest movies ever made. You go back and watch them when you're an adult and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? All nostalgia aside, some of these movies that we liked as kids were pretty fucking bad. And admittedly, I was a bit worried that that's what I was gonna get with The Rocketeer. It is a bit of a goofy concept if you think about it. A down-on-his-luck pilot in the 1930s finds a rocket pack in the back of a plane, he puts it on and just starts flying around the place like fucking Iron Man, and somehow gets mixed up with fighting the mafia, Nazis, and Hollywood, culminating in an explosive ending where they have to escape a Zeppelin as it explodes and then crashes part of it into the Hollywood sign. Plus, this was all done in 1991, and yes, my memory of those effects were great, but much like my memory on other things concerning films when I was younger, when it comes to the effects, sometimes I go back, watch some older movies, and I'm like, oh yeah, that did not age well. So I buckled in and sat down to watch this childhood favorite this past week, and I gotta say, about 10 minutes into the movie, and all of my reservations were quelmed. I was immediately sucked back into this 1930s pulp comic world with over-the-top actors, Cagney-esque mobsters, and wholesome stoic heroes. This movie is so much fun. There's a heightened childlike glee that runs throughout the veins of this entire movie. These are the type of movies I miss. Entertaining, fun escapism. Is everything in this movie realistic? Hell no. It's about a guy who straps a fucking rocket pack to his back and flies around and never burns his fucking legs. But everything here is fun and entertaining. I loved every minute of my time with The Rocketeer. The performances are all something straight out of a 1930s serial or maybe even an Indiana Jones movie. They're all just slightly heightened and a little bit over the top. It's never too much, but it is very reminiscent of those films of the 30s and 40s. Everybody makes big, exaggerated movements. It has a brooding stare after every statement that they make. It's a little corny, but it's intentional and it's great. Billy Campbell and Alan Arkin are fantastic in this movie. Their broken little air-filled family that they have is better than most real families that we see on TV now. Jennifer Connelly is exquisite as always here as the love interest, and her character's actually given a bit more to do than we would typically get out of this kind of character in these kinds of movies. She's not just a screaming damsel in distress. She actually has some stuff to do, something to add to the story. And the extremely underrated Timothy Dalton as our main antagonist is just, fucking chef's kiss, man. This guy is great. While yes, at one point Timothy Dalton did play the ultimate hero, James Bond, he was born to play villains, and here he is the best. Really, the whole cast is great, and there's a cavalcade of well-known character actors throughout this film. I mean, you've got the likes of Paul Sorvino, Terry O'Quinn, Ed Lauter, John Polito, Eddie Jones, Margot Martindale, Clint Howard, the list goes on. It's like every scene that happens, there's a new face in it that you're like, oh, I know that person from this thing. This is just a fantastic cast all around. Now, narratively, this is very much a 1930s or 1940s serial-esque movie. It's very much got that old school Indiana Jones feel. Not so much as far as like the story goes, but just the overall tone and feel of it all. I mean, that and the fact that Joe Johnston did work under Steven Spielberg for years before getting his own directing gigs. So that probably helped a bit as well. This is very much an ode to those old films. And after seeing this film, it will be no surprise to anyone that Johnston would go on almost 20 years later and direct Captain America: The First Avenger. This is how you make a great movie. It has a fantastic pace, never dipping. And it's not that there's action through and through. There is a lot of action in the movie. It is very fun. No, there are plenty of story bits, but it's it's all entertaining, it's always moving forward. It's got snappy dialogue, creative editing, and an interesting story. And when we get to those big action scenes, they actually seem like big deals. Seeing this man take off into the air as the Rocketeer for the first time is a big deal, and it is a really exciting, big moment. This movie does a great job of taking these things that we would see in movies nowadays, and they just aren't really presented as that big of a deal. This movie makes them seem like big, exciting things. And add to that the great special effects that sell the whole thing. Now, do the special effects stand up to 2021 effects? No, not all of them. The practical effects do. But sure, while the Rocketeer is flying around, you can tell there's definitely some compositing and some green screening going on, or probably actually blue screening. But it is really well done blue screen work. Keep in mind, this is 1991, the same year that T2 came out, and right before 1993 when that big CGI revolution really started. And yes, I know there was technically CGI in movies before that, but it really didn't kick off to being in everything until around 93, 94 after Jurassic Park. Which, coincidentally enough, on a side note, Joe Johnston went on to direct the third Jurassic Park movie. But we're not gonna hold that against him. It's really a testament to how well this movie's made and executed, because a lot of the scenes with these effects from 1991 are more exciting than movies that have come out nowadays with superior effects in pretty much every way. It goes to show that great effects are not the only thing that sell it. You gotta have the whole package, and the Rocketeer absolutely does have the entire package. Guys, I could go on all day about the Rocketeer, and if I don't stop somewhere, I'll just keep on nerding out all night. If you hadn't guessed already, I really enjoyed the Rocketeer. While the movie didn't do gangbusters or anything when it came out, it did over time develop a cult following. If you go online, there are a lot of people that praise this movie. If you've never seen it, there's a reason that all these people say that it's such a great flick, and that's because it is. This is a ridiculously entertaining, fun movie with some great performances and a wonderful cast. Solid, if not great, for 30-year-old effects, and a rousing story that gets my blood pumping every time I watch it. They just don't make movies like The Rocketeer anymore, and that's kind of sad, because The Rocketeer is absolutely 100% without a doubt a unicorn. I love this movie. I was a bit hesitant going into it because I hadn't seen it in so long, but it did not disappoint in the slightest. If you're a fan but haven't seen it in years, check it out. It's still as good, if not better now than it was then. If you've never seen The Rocketeer, which is probably the case with a lot of people, then go check it out immediately. This is a wonderful film. So there it is, guys, my review of The Rocketeer. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Hollywood! This was the first movie, or maybe the only movie, that I ever attended that actually got a standing ovation at the end of the film. This wasn't like some special viewing or anything. This was just a theater that my parents took me to on opening night when it came out in 1991. At the end of the film, when the big explosion happens and our heroes kind of come out and, you know, the big rousing moment, literally everyone in the theater started clapping and people were standing up, and I was like, holy crap, this is the kind of shit you only see in the movies. And I gotta admit, till this day when I see that moment in the movie, it is still just such a rousing, exciting moment that I kind of want to get up and start like Shia LaBeouf clapping no matter who's around. Because that was a great moment in my life, just sitting there and seeing all those people get up in the theater clapping. It was just really cool. I think I'm going to start doing that when I go to theaters from now on, especially in screenings. No matter what the movie is, no matter how good it was or how bad it was, at the very end of it, when like whatever big ending or rousing moment happens, no matter what the movie is, even a drama, I'm going to get up and just start clapping the shit out of the place and see how many people I can get up to start doing it with me. I think this will make every movie experience better, or I'll just look like an asshole. Either way, it'll be entertaining for somebody.